Welcome to City Education, your go-to channel for education in all forms, shapes, and sizes. Today's video is essential for any lawyer, any newly qualified attorney, any law student, any legal entrepreneur looking to start a firm or handle basic finances. Now let's dive into it. We'll be looking at the double-entry bookkeeping system, the foundation of accounting, explained step by step with relatable examples. Basically, the introductory part of bookkeeping. Before we get into it, it is important to know what bookkeeping is. Bookkeeping is the systematic recording of financial transactions. We all know that law firms deal with clients' trust money, income from fees, office rent, salaries, and purchases, all of which need to be recorded accurately. It is very important for a law firm to ensure that their books are in check. This helps with tax compliance, measuring profitability, and avoiding legal or ethical issues. Bookkeeping begins with the understanding of the accounting equation. Now, the accounting equation is as follows. Assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. Before we get into that, what is an asset? Well, an asset is what the business owns. This can be cash in a bank, which falls under current assets. It can be computers used in the law firm, office furniture, or a client's debt. Liabilities, on the other hand, are what the business owes. This can be in the form of loans or even creditors. For example, when you buy a computer on credit. Moving on to equity or owner's equity. Equity is what the owner has invested into the business. Basically, it's capital. The equation must always be balanced. Every debit has a matching credit. Before we go deep into the double balance system, let's clear up one of the most confusing areas for beginners in bookkeeping. The most common question here is why do some things increase on the debit side while others increase on the credit side? Let's dive into liabilities and expenses. Liabilities, as mentioned above, are obligations to pay in future. For example, a bank loan from Capitec, we touched on that earlier. Owing a supplier for furniture, we also touched on that. Now, when it comes to liabilities, they increase on the credit side because you're adding to what you owe. Expenses, on the other hand, are costs for running the business. Basically, they are the costs incurred for running a business day to day. For example, these can be your rent, electricity, the printing of documents which will be filed to court, the internet needed for research, and staff salaries. Expenses increase on the debit side because they reduce the owner's equity. Remember, assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. Basically, when it comes to expenses, they reduce the profit. This reduces the owner's equity. Hence, expenses are debited. Liabilities increase debts. This adds to the right side of the equation because they are credited. Another common question which confuses most people is, why does income increase on the credit side? Well, this is because income boosts profits, which increases owner's equity, and equity increases on the credit side of the equation. This is why we credit income even though a business is gaining. For example, you earn 10,000 in legal fees. Because the 10,000 is income, it will increase on the credit side. Now, because we are dealing with a double entry system, the debit side will also increase. Why is this? Well, the money is going into the firm's bank account. And as established above, money in the bank is a current asset. And we know that assets increase on the debit side. Now, what would happen if you were to buy an asset on credit? Would the credit side, the debit side increase? Let's get into it. Even though you haven't paid, you've gained a valuable asset. But now, you owe money to a creditor. Basically, buying an asset on credit means your assets will increase as well as your liabilities. The liabilities are in the form of the credit, and your assets are in the form of the item you bought on credit. Always put in mind that this is a double entry system. Whatever happens on the right must in some way happen on the left. Another confusing common question is, why does income increase on the credit side even though you are getting paid? Well, income boosts profits, which increase owner's equity, and the equity increases on the credit side of the equation. That is why we credit income even though the business is gaining. Well, to sum it up, assets increase on the debit side and decrease on the credit side. Liabilities decrease on the debit side and increase on the credit side. Equity decreases on the debit side and increases on the credit side. Expenses increase on the debit side and decrease on the credit side. Income decreases on the debit side and increases on the credit side. Now, let's dive deeper into this double entry system. Here, every transaction affects two accounts. That is why it's called a double entry system. For every debit, there is a corresponding credit of equal value. The system keeps your books balanced and your business accountable. For example, if your firm must pay rent for the office it's occupying, let's say for instance at a value of 1,000 rand per month. This is hypothetical, by the way. Now, your debit side would increase because rent is an expense, and as established expenses increase on the debit side. Your credit side would be affected as well because this is a double entry system. Now, when you're paying the rent of 1,000 rand to the office owners, the money would be coming out of your account. Now, as established, money in your account is a current asset. Now, when money is coming out, we all know that assets decrease on the credit side. Hence, it is recorded on the credit side rather than the debit side. In simple terms, we debit rent because expenses increase on the debit side, and we credit the rent because assets decrease on the credit side. I'm sure you're getting an idea of what is supposed to happen and how the double entry system works by now. Now let's look at common examples of mistakes people make in law firms. The first mistake is mixing personal and business transactions. For example, you pay groceries with your law firm card, or you receive a client's fees into your personal bank account instead of your business account. Now, why is this a problem? Well, because it breaks the accounting integrity of your firm and makes filing a nightmare. It breaches law society regulations around trust money and client funds. It also reduces transparency, making it hard to track real income and expenses. It is advisable to always separate bank accounts, one for personal, one for business. Record every transaction clearly, even if it's owner related. Another common problem is recording only one side of the transaction. For example, you record the earned income but forget to enter the corresponding bank account deposit. This is a problem because it breaks the double entry system. Your books won't balance, and it will be hard to trust any financial reports that come from your company. This may trigger SARS and audit flags because of the inconsistency of your books. Always ask what two accounts are affected. For every debit, there must be an equal credit. Use the T accounts to ensure this. Mistake number 3 would be confusing income with cash received. This is when you treat every incoming bank transfer as income, even if it's a loan, capital, or client deposit. This is a problem because it misstates your profit, leading to incorrect tax liability. It also overstates how well your business is performing, which violates ethical accounting standards. In order to avoid this, always ask, why is the money coming in? Is it a loan, a refund, an investment, or actual revenue? Record these accordingly. These are just some of the mistakes that happen during bookkeeping. Remember, bookkeeping isn't just a financial task. It's a legal obligation and a reputation safeguard for anyone in the legal profession. Avoiding these common mistakes will protect your firm, your clients, and your future in the profession. I hope you now have an idea of how the double entry system works and how the accounting equation keeps your books balanced. Whether you're a law student, a solo practitioner, or just curious about financial literacy, this is your foundation. If this helped, like, subscribe, and share. And be sure to stay tuned to City Education, where learning meets purpose.